A lot more homework left to be done on this issue. Crime. 46 calls within 1 year to one dispensary location, Bloom Medicinals, located at 1361 Georgesville Road. The CPD dispatch report reports 46 burglary alarms, robbery alarms, person with a gun, person with a knife, and a panic alarm from January 1st of 2024 to February 9th of 2025. Did you bother to do any research on the Ohio dispensaries and the amount of burglary calls they received to their operation? Lisa, thank you. It sounds like you did with the LexisNexis. I will leave this for you tonight. This is the dispatch call report from a legal dispensary on Georgesville Road. Burglary alarm on the 10th, another burglary alarm later that day on the 10th. Panic alarm, robbery alarm, burglary alarm, multiple all the way down, burglary in process, person with a gun, person with a knife, burglary alarm, robbery alarm, suspicious person. To your point, the dispensaries are very well secured. They have cameras, and the criminals know they are cash heavy. How many calls is my local sheriff going to have to respond to that's going to pull them off of duty protecting our citizens in other areas of the county? We are already so stretched thin to begin with. And if the alarm bells are going off every single day, that is an issue that needs to be investigated. Ascend Cannabis. I'm sorry, but Ascend Cannabis does not care about the well-being of our neighborhood. I don't mean that to be harsh. I just simply mean that this is a business owner, and this is simply a business transaction for them. They live in Cincinnati. Their operator lives in Missouri. I also question their integrity, considering they circulated a text survey to area residents with misleading tax revenue information, flawed questions that were designed only to result in a favorable response to their effort. This in itself shows their own willingness to deceive our residents. I received this survey. It was disgusting. Erica, thank you for bringing up the fact it did not even give you an option to say no. All of their questions were leading. All of them were purposely written to confuse our residents. That cuts at the very integrity of this owner. They claimed our local schools would benefit hundreds of thousands of dollars each year from sales. That is false. At best, the township might earn $300,000 in tax revenue, and not all of that will go to Olentangy. Only a small fraction will. On a school budget of almost $400 million, a few $1,000s per year is not enough to offset the risk of depreciating home values, added police calls, additional traffic, and safety concerns. Your decision to not put forward a moratorium was negligent and irresponsible. So, where do we go from here? I recommend you vote against the dispensary's request. You need to partner with our local prosecutor and your own legal team to truly determine if we as a township have a way to better define our zoning and provide better clarity for residents and developers so all parties are satisfied. You know, one of the things that's mentioned here, and it's specifically outlined in zoning laws, is the health and general welfare of a community. You know, they talk about, we already know we may never see a dime from this if this gets rolled up in the general fund. So then you talk about income tax. The income tax is based on a handful of employees, maybe 35 or less. Most of those employees will be hourly employees. We're never going to make a ton of money off of income tax. So we're taking a large risk with stress to our area residents without much financial gain. But getting at health and welfare, when I walked in tonight, this was sitting out on the counter. I don't know who provided this, but I've seen this on the website before, and it's just a breakdown of how the state of Ohio and Ohio Revised Code distributes the tax revenues. On there, you see that 25% of the tax revenues go to the Substance Abuse and Addiction Fund. So basically, if this is indeed in the best interest of public health and welfare, then why do 25% of our tax revenues have to go to treat addiction? The developers didn't want this over at Polaris, and many of our homeowners don't want this. You are able to deny zoning based on health, safety, and general welfare concerns. I believe this issue and the concerns here satisfy all of those. I ask that you deny the request by the dispensary to occupy 3812 East Powell Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a copy of that?
You want a copy of it?
The bullet points.
Yeah, that was our friend.
No, the bull, that,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Or do you want to,
No, I've got one.
this too? That's the police.
Thank you.
Good evening. Scott Is the mic on?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Scott Dissinger, 6171 Stormhaven Court. Thank you for your time. I thought it was a very slick, professional presentation, and I have a big concern now. I didn't expect this concern to touch me. Very clever trick in suggesting to the applicant that they go ahead and make the purchase when you haven't made the approval, and the zoning wasn't approved. I mean, wow, that sort of shocked me. But I think what was clearly, one point that was clearly established so far this evening is there's no need for the facility. We've already demonstrated by the applicant themselves that there are plenty of facilities already available. And in terms of due diligence, in October of 2024, Ascend Wellness, operating 3 dispensaries in the state of Massachusetts, was fined $85,000 for failing to properly comply with Massachusetts track and trace system. Regulators were unable to verify the delivery of nearly 900 cannabis products due to discrepancies in Ascend's tracking processes. And then just a few weeks ago, February the 4th, 2025, Ascend Wellness Holdings is being sued by a putative class of customers in Illinois State Court, claiming its vape products contain more THC than is allowed in the state's law. So I think what we saw here is a presentation. It sort of reminds me of the analogy of you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. And I really appreciate, Lisa, you spent a lot of time and due diligence on doing the crime survey. I'm sure that took a lot of work. The key issue there, and there's studies in Colorado and Oregon, it's not that the crime increases directly around the facility. The crime increases in the neighborhoods that are near that facility. For example, and this is not a bastion of conservative thought, the University of Colorado, Denver, the study by the researchers there, and it appeared in Justice Quarterly, a publication of the Academy of Criminal Justice Sciences, the lead researcher, PhD, Professor Laureen Hughes, we found that neighborhoods with 1 or more medical or recreational dispensaries saw increased crime rates that were between 26% and 1,452% higher than in neighbors without. So again, and I think they do a great job, I'm sure they do. They want to protect their cash and they want to protect their products by putting all the cameras there. Again, these studies show it's not the crime that occurs right around the facility, it's when you start backing out and you get in the neighborhoods that surround where that facility is placed. I think too that, and again, I thought the previous speaker placed it well, this is a zoning issue, it's an issue regarding the general wellness of our community. I don't think this fits. And just recently, in October of 2024, Dr. Hannah Hayes, Chief of Toxicology, Nationwide Children's Hospital, indicated that research indicates the state is on track for a 49% increase in accidental pediatric exposures to marijuana this year. So, I don't want to go on and on. I got a lot of other notes. I don't see how you listen to facts like this and you can make that kind of approval. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Braden Dissinger. I live at 5892 Leeward Court, and as in the rest of my life, my father precedes me. I came to learn more information about what was going in. First, to the board, I think you missed a big opportunity. We've heard it now from multiple people. No one knew that this was going on. The communication was very poor. It was clearly an extenuating circumstance. I think your listserv is about to get a whole bunch more subscribers after tonight. This was not communicated effectively. It sounds like it's just been going on its own, and then we all sort of found out the last couple of weeks. But you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Learn from that and do better next time. I'm struggling with some of the arguments that I've heard tonight. I think the first one that I'm struggling with is that Mr. Kometz and what's her last name again? How do I pronounce it? Kathleen? Olivastra. Sorry, thank you. They don't have any skin in the game, right? They don't live here. This is the chickens and the pigs wanting to open the breakfast restaurant, and the chickens say we're going to name it Bacon and Eggs, and the chicken and the pigs say no, we're not going to do that because you are a participant, but we're fully committed. We as citizens of Orange Township, we're fully committed to this. They're just participants from afar. I think the approach around church ideals misses the point entirely and doesn't understand that demographic of our population. Indicating that they'll change the hours misses the point of what the church ideals are actually about. It's actually about the product being sold and not the hours of operation for your business. The items that were collected at the mall, I'd like to see the receipt. That's an interesting take. Maybe he did get those at the mall, maybe he didn't. I'll assume that for now that they were actually purchased at the mall. This is very similar to an argument that I often heard from my children when they were little. They would come home and they would say, well, so-and-so has a toy at school and so I want it as well. Just because you can get it somewhere else doesn't necessarily mean that it should show up in our backyards. There was quite a bit around the supposed community benefit. It sounds like there was a big push on the proposed economic benefit. Lisa, you made an excellent point that we should just jack up the price to $10 million. I don't think that's reality.
Excuse me, do what?
You made a joke earlier. You said that if you thought it was good
Oh,
for
that
the
they would
community,
give us $10 million. Okay,
sorry,
gotcha.
I'm responding with a joke as well. But it sounds like the economic proposal is potentially not even reality if it disappears in further state legislation. So that goes out the door. Some of the other proposed benefits were around the medical use. Well, if that's the case, then why are we also having a recreational dual license showing up as well? Just stick with the medical stuff if that's what the community impact actually is. Additionally, none of the charts that we were shown had any labels on the graphs. So all of the economic and the welfare benefit graphs that showed up, what do those even mean because they weren't even labeled? There was a lot of pleas to emotionalism on the rights of the individual who's bought the property, and that there may be a lawsuit after that. That's just the reality of the business world, and that's a plea to emotionalism. Crime at the site, as several people before me have referenced, that's only half of the equation. I appreciate that they're going to have a very tight facility, that they're going to be under certain state regulation, that it'll be in a vault, all the security and everything. I appreciate the crime stats that, Lisa, that you pulled around the other dispensaries in the area, but that's only half of the equation. That's only a piece of it. There's a much bigger piece about when the product is removed from the site and then used elsewhere and the potential crime that comes from that. That wasn't even addressed. There's this argument that, well, they'll just get annexed anyway and we'll lose the money. Well, maybe we'll lose the money, or maybe we'll lose the money anyway because of further regulation that makes that sales tax go away. This is, again, another argument that I've I've heard when my children were little, when they would go to either mom or dad and ask for a piece of candy and get told no, and then they would go immediately to the other adult and ask for the same piece of candy from that one. There very well may be good reasons for this to get through. But all of the arguments that we've heard tonight are the equivalent of wet cardboard. And I would like to hear a significantly better argument for why this should go through. We have not heard that yet.
Can I see that crime report?
The genuine.
So just one copy?
My name is Dr. Terry Castor. I've lived in Orange Township for 25 years. I practiced internal medicine in Worthington, Ohio for 43 years before retiring 5 years ago. One of the things we've not heard tonight is what are the health consequences of marijuana, and they're significant. And it's sad. I'm really sad that we're even here tonight having this discussion. And I asked myself, well, how did we get here? How did we get here? We got here because of an election in November of 2023. And issue 2 won 57% for to 43% against. But those statistics are misleading because we only had 49.63 of the electorate vote in that election. So only 28% of the eligible voters voted for recreational marijuana. To me, this is not convincing evidence of how the majority of people in Ohio feel about recreational marijuana. Also likely influencing the vote was the fact that there was a strong contribution financially by the marijuana industry to the effort of legalization. You remember abortion had all the attention in this election. The marijuana was kind of snuck in there. In addition, I did not think there was any significant effort to educate the public regarding the harms of marijuana. The pro-cannabis faction emphasized the financial tax revenue benefit that communities would receive from marijuana dispensaries and how it benefits schools, infrastructure projects like parks, and safety services like fire. You know, Eric talked about medical marijuana, and that's a whole different animal. You know, we're talking about recreational use of marijuana, and I think he sort of made my case for me when he told about all the stuff that's going on with easy access to high-potency marijuana. That sounds like the fentanyl crisis. I mean, and you know, I think there's in a lot of ways there's similarities here, and so you know him coming in with his regulated thing doesn't make that problem go away. Does not help that problem at all. It was sort of inferred that maybe somehow that would help that problem, but it's not going to make that problem go away at all. And so we're just getting deeper and deeper down the road of no return here. I mean, it's that's why I'm so sad. It's why I'm so sad. And you know, let me just talk about some of the, you know, what marijuana does to people. And this is we're talking long-term use. So part of the problem is there's not a lot of, you know, long-term use studies, and this will sort of increase the curve. We'll have a lot more opportunities to get people to look at for gathering data. But I think there's enough data that gives a pretty clear picture of what the reality is. And I think that just like we weren't educated about this meeting tonight, I don't think people are well educated about the harms of marijuana. They are not well educated. So that's my role. I'm going to step forward and try to bring to light some of the real problems with marijuana. Research shows that up to 30% of users develop cannabis use disorder, which means they cannot stop even with negative health outcomes, and are 10 times more likely to commit suicide. Brain effects include mood changes, coordination issues, impaired memory, problem-solving issues, reduced reaction time, disorientation, decreased learning ability. A recent Canadian study showed 68% of recent users had memory issues. We've got enough Alzheimer's without fostering more, by the way. The study also found decreased brain activity in other functions like decision-making, attention span, and emotional processing. There's data suggesting an increased risk of auto accidents. Makes sense from what I just said. High-dose cannabis can cause hallucinations. This is really important. When brains in teens and young adults are not fully developed, and long-term use may hinder brain development and lead to permanent problems with attention, memory, and learning. Long-term use of marijuana is associated with an increased risk of schizophrenia. Cannabis also increases heart rate and blood pressure and could contribute to heart attacks and strokes in predisposed persons. So, where are we at? Well, I think the other folks have said it pretty well. Somewhere, somebody has to say, stop. Somebody has to say, stop. We're not going down this road anymore. And I think it, maybe a small step, but stopping the zoning is a first step. It's a good first step. It's unfortunate that things have gotten this far down the line before we're at this point, but the property is valuable. I'm sure it's not going to be a catastrophe if we don't put through the zoning. So, anyways, I think that's all I'll say for now. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
My name's Larry Frere. Been a wonderful ride with Orange Township for almost
Address.
25 years.
Can you give us your address, Larry? Your
Can you hear me
address.
now? Larry
No,
Frere.
we need your address.
2720 Tucker Trail.
Thank you.
Which is off East Powell. I'm so happy that I came here tonight. And what I'm going to address is really not about zoning, okay? What I learned tonight is that we're on a slippery slope. And I mean that sincerely. I had no idea. I was asleep at the wheel when the new dog distillery opened. So now I got a new liquor thing at the end of the road there, and then I'm going to have a pot place across the street from there. So my challenge I have is that because of me trying to do what I could when the general election came with issue and we lost, fine. Well, I never expected, though, that this would be infiltrating my neighborhood. And shame on me for not being more aware of that, to be quite honest with you. But what I learned tonight, which is absolutely fascinating to me, is that the gentleman went to stores, I guess, real close to my neighborhood and bought products that really a sucker and candy is filled with pot where my grandchildren can get high from this product. So we went from medical marijuana approved all the way down to candy buying and grandchildren and children that can get involved in this. I mean,